Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here at the First Alert Desk. My name's Karli Barnett. We want to give you a look at some of the stories that we are looking at for your Tuesday. We hope you're having a good night and staying dry out there. We know it's been a rainy one here in North Georgia. In just a few minutes, we're going to have First Alert Meteorologist Patrick Pete come by. He's going to give you a recap of our First Alert weather day that we have had and are still in the midst of, as well as a look at some cold temperatures ahead. So you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. But one of the things that we're following is actually a meeting that's taking place right now in Marietta City Schools. The school board is discussing a cell phone policy. Now, we first reported about this policy back before school even started when school board members were discussing keeping cell phones in pouches for middle schoolers. So now that's been going on for the whole semester there at two middle schools in Marietta. And faculty, staff, they're saying because of the success they have seen that they would be interested in expanding this to high schoolers. Now, not everybody is on board with it. Some are saying that while maybe they've noticed students paying attention more in the classroom, some parents are concerned about safety and they want to be able to get in touch with their child in case of any sort of emergency. So we have our reporter Bridget Spencer. She is in the meeting right now. She is going to give us a full recap of what exactly took place and what was discussed. You can join us tonight at 10 and 11, 10 on Peachtree TV, 11 on WANF, and she's going to have a full breakdown of what ultimately gets decided. They said there's probably no decision that's going to come tonight, but they are beginning those conversations. So a little bit earlier, we had reporter Brittany Ford talking about this, giving us a look back at how all of this came to be and why they are now wanting to expand it to high school students.
Well, this is one of two schools in the district that is now requiring students to use these lockable pouches for their cell phones. School officials say it's a program that's working, and they're now partnering with two major institutions who are taking a deeper dive.
It's got out of hand.
Christina Lowry has a 6th and 8th grader in the Marietta City School District.
Most of the time they would just be playing games. It's not really for educational purposes, so I think it's amazing to not have access to the phone during the day.
That's her reaction to these lockable pouches her children are required to leave their cell phones in while at school. The district is looking to get feedback like Lowry's.
And we're very interested in studying real time what is the impact of what's happening in our middle schools now.
They've partnered with Emory University and Children's Healthcare of Atlanta to conduct a study. Over the next year, researchers will meet with students, teachers, and families to get feedback on the cell phone program.
What do we care about? We want fewer distractions at school. We want kids feeling better about themselves. And our hope is that the school can ultimately have an impact on what's happening in our homes as well.
So far, school officials say they've seen improved focus in the classroom and students fostering better relationships.
One of the things very early on that we're looking at is if we take a child's cell phone and we do not give them access during the day, how does that create anxiety for kids when they might have otherwise hidden behind a cell phone?
The school district officials say they plan to expand or modify the program based on information collected from the study. In Marietta, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
Again, we have our reporter Bridget Spencer. She is in that meeting right now. She's going to have more tonight on Atlanta News First. Now, this is another story that we have been following for you today. We have now learned from investigators, they say it was a Russian bomb hoax against Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene that led to the death of a woman in Rome, as well as an officer who was injured, an officer who was helping with that response when they received this call. They call it swatting, basically this fake bomb threat that happened. He collided in his car with another woman. That woman ultimately killed on the scene. And Atlanta News First political reporter, he was at the state capitol today where he said that lawmakers have tried to pass legislation about this so-called swatting in the past, but what we now know is that this is allegedly a Russian bomb hoax that caused all of this. Reporter Doug Reardon has more.
It was an issue that needed to be addressed and something that needed to be stopped. State Senator Jason Estevez sponsored Senate Bill 421 last year, making just a single swatting call a felony in Georgia. He's had his address exposed, and people show up to his home unannounced.
This affects people regardless of party, regardless of your beliefs.
Estevez, a Democrat, was one of dozens of sponsors from both parties. Another, Republican Senator Clint Dixon, was swatted twice in 2 days last Christmas.
You're relaxing at home, especially on Christmas, watching football, and all of a sudden, you hear your wife screaming hysterically that, police are coming up the steps. So.
It's a scary scenario that turned deadly this week. A Rome police sergeant on his way to help with a swatting bomb threat at the home of Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene got into a car crash, killing a 66-year-old driver. Greene, who was not hurt, shared this video of the response, adding she was, quote, heartsick over the death. These violent political threats have consequences. She tweeted, it's an undue strain on our law enforcement.
Dangerous, people can get hurt. Or loss of life.
The call to Greene's home was quickly linked to Russia, proving the ability of law enforcement to rapidly track the origin of the dangerous act.
We have the tools in place to identify folks who are making these calls.
It's not a joke. Don't do it. If you do it, you're going to go to jail.
People that are doing this think it's a game, think that it's funny.
Charles Yarbaugh, a retired D.C. police officer now living in Atlanta, has responded to countless swatting calls. He says the false alarms put a strain on officers and leave the community vulnerable.
You may have an agency that may not have that many officers. So now all of them are going to this one location, and now you have another call of the service that is of a serious nature and is real. Now we have to find out how quickly we can get there.
And speaking of emergency responses, we are learning more about the death of a young volleyball player in College Park. We've now learned from some 911 calls what may have delayed an emergency response to the scene. So as our reporter Chelsea Bimefore learned through these 911 calls, that there was some confusion in regards to the call for an ambulance. So she picks up our story from here to explain what may have happened there and what may have led to that confusion.
An ambulance never physically showed up here, but the story is complicated, starting with a 911 call about a possible allergic reaction. It's still unclear exactly what happened to that volleyball player, but now the city of College Park and Grady Hospital are pointing fingers at each other.
We at the Tracy White Recreation Center, one of the young ladies on the basketball team fell out.
Around 6 p.m. last Thursday, someone called College Park 911 to report a young athlete had collapsed at the city rec center and may be having an allergic reaction.
She's probably 14 or 15. About 14.
Oh, and what happened to her?
She said something about she don't have her EpiPen or something.
Uh-oh, so she's having an allergic reaction to something?
Yes, ma'am.
The victim was 16-year-old Amanda Sylvester, a member of the Dream Chasers Volleyball Club. College Park spokesman Bill Crane says city firefighters and EMT workers responded quickly and stabilized the teen, but weren't authorized to transport her to a medical facility.
Unless it was a life or death situation in the perception of the EMTs, they don't have the authority or the licensure to transport.
In a statement, Grady Hospital said they also did not immediately dispatch an ambulance because the patient's symptoms did not initially suggest an immediate life-threatening emergency. Remember, that first 911 call was in reference to a possible allergic reaction, but minutes later, a second 911 call came in.
I just called not too long ago, and the fire department is here, but we waiting on an ambulance.
Okay, let me get you through to yes, ma'am. Let me get you through to Grady. Hold on for me. They're at level 0 right now, meaning they don't have any ambulances available. Give me 1 second.
Grady Hospital says their EMS trucks were assigned to other emergencies at the time of that second 911 call. But after learning more about Amanda's condition and medical history, they quickly reallocated resources and sent an ambulance to the scene. It's unclear how many minutes had passed before that happened. However, while en route, Grady alleges the College Park Fire Department canceled the call because the patient had left the scene in a personal vehicle.
No one canceled the call. Working for the city of College Park.
Witnesses say Amanda's mother chose to drive her daughter eventually to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, where she later died. We do know that Amanda was diabetic, but her cause of death has not been released. The city tells us there is surveillance video of that medical emergency inside the rec center. We have put in a request to see that footage. Reporting in College Park, Chelsea Vine for Atlanta News First.
Such sad news there to have to report. Certainly, we're going to continue to stay on top of any developments that we learn there. Now, the other big story tonight, of course, is the weather. We'll go ahead and take you outside. We're going a little bit further south. We're looking at central Georgia, rather. This is downtown Macon. But what I also will give you a look at, how about this radar right here? Yeah, there's a lot of green there. And rightfully so, because it is a First Alert weather day. And we have First Alert Meteorologist Patrick Pete here with how much longer that we're going to deal with this rain, Patrick, and then a big shift that's going to happen overnight.
Oh, yeah. So we got about 12 hours left to deal with rain. This is the perfect weather for chili, everybody. And I use that as a segue because I always try to pair the weather with something. Here at Atlanta News First, we are embarking on a very high stakes chili competition that will take place on tomorrow. So this is actually really, really timely because it's going to be so chilly tomorrow. If you were looking for something to cook for your family tonight or tomorrow, nice bowl of chili is going to be in the cards, or at least it should be, not only because it's damp outside, we are tracking scattered showers across the area, but because we're also extending that First Alert weather day into tomorrow. There's some showers around in the morning, but I do think our bigger story tomorrow will be the big temperature drop. One of my digital managers is very excited about this temperature drop. He wanted to make sure that I speak to you all about this temperature drop because he's so excited about this temperature drop. He is. That's the biggest part of the weather story, Tim. So we're going to make sure we get you that information on that temperature drop coming up in just a couple of minutes. So I'm just going to do one little quick change. I'm a little rusty on this machine, but here we go. Let's get you back. As you can see, the bulk of this rain is to the east of the city of Atlanta. You're looking for the yellows, the oranges, the reds. That's where you're going to get that more steady rain to heavy downpour. And starting to push on out towards the east. I'm looking at eastern Putnam County. Folks that are in Eatonton, you're starting to see the rain lighten up just a little bit, but it is stretching to the north. Folks in Greene County, you're starting to see some improvement there. Enterprise, you're dealing with the last of the steady rain, and then it's just going to transition to light showers like folks out in Athens are seeing. And then, of course, zooming out, if you're inside of the city of Atlanta, we are dealing with some intermittent light rain, very, very light rain. It's gloomy, it's cloudy. That will continue to be the story. But you can see that front starting to move closer to our area, and all of that moisture just funneling from the southwest to the northeast along that boundary. And that's why we're going to keep rain chances around over the course of the next few hours. Now, I've been watching the atmosphere, taking a lot of observations of different elements. And what we're seeing is that the atmosphere is starting to stabilize across most of the area. So whereas we had a level 2 out of 5 risk for strong to severe storms for a large chunk of areas south of I-20 and a level 1 moving into the Atlanta area, that has been trimmed back tremendously. And that kind of goes along with the conversation that Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez and myself have been having since about 5 o'clock, that a lot of the dynamics in the atmosphere look to be stabilizing and that risk for severe weather continues to decrease. While that risk is not zero, it is very, very close to it. The areas that are highlighted here are now under a level 1 out of 5. No longer are we dealing with a level 2. And that's the south and easternmost part of our viewing area. A rogue strong to severe thunderstorm cannot be ruled out, but we have not seen any lightning in our area. But we do expect more rain to build back into the region as we head into the overnight hours. And it does appear that the bulk of this rain will be hanging out along the I-85 corridor, not necessarily immediately on that corridor, but I would say roughly within 30 miles or so. Either direction is where we're going to see the axis of some of this rain. So if you're anywhere near I-85 within 25-30 miles per hour, 25-30 miles, you will likely see more of this rain moving into the area over the next few hours. If you're in extreme northwest Georgia, I'm looking at folks that are in Chattooga, Floyd counties, you have a better chance of just seeing some light showers and some drier time than the rest of us across most of the metro. By around 4 o'clock, we're still dealing with more of that moisture moving in waves, so this is going to be a messy overnight. But by around 8 o'clock, the bulk of this moisture is starting to push out. Now, something of note will be the high for tomorrow. If you're with us tonight at 11, we're going to show you our 3-degree guarantee because, you know, we're at 100% for the month and we're doing good for Hosea Helps. But we're also going to show you that the high for tomorrow is going to be near midnight, and temperatures through the day are going to fall. So in our 7-day forecast, it's going to have a completely different number than our 3-degree number, because our 3-degree number is for the actual high, and our 7-day forecast is we're going to tell you what you're going to feel tomorrow afternoon. So I'm going to make sure I explain that in the newscast tonight, but in case I don't and y'all are here, you have that information. You've been armed with what you need to know. So the risk for flooding is also decreasing. A lot of those elements are coming together. We do still have several areas that could pick up another inch of rain or so, but just based off of those areas and what they've already received, we believe that most of these areas could withstand another inch of rain. In other words, it could soak into the ground. It shouldn't cause a major flooding issue. Still a very, very low end opportunity for that, but that has also been reduced, and that's been part of our story as well. Here's a look at our hour-by-hour rainfall totals, and it does appear that areas in far east Georgia have the best chance of picking up upwards of another inch, while the rest of us are going to be close to an inch or less over the next few hours. Here's that 7 o'clock timestamp. You can see the bulk of that moisture pushing out. We're sunny as we head closer to lunchtime, and the skies are actually going to be quite gorgeous as we head into the afternoon. I think our bigger story for Wednesday will be the gusty winds and the temperature drop. So let's take them one by one. Let's talk about the winds. At times, we're going to be talking about 35 to 40 miles per hour wind gusts. Right now, the National Weather Service they've not issued a wind advisory, but I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of our counties got put in one at some point tomorrow once they start to see some of those observations coming in. 35, 40 miles per hour wind gusts. Once you get closer to 40, that's typically whenever they start to issue wind advisories. But this is going to be a northwest wind, and all of you all have been along with us for this ride for at least a few years, if not many years. So you guys know that whenever the winds shift and become northwesterly in the wintertime, you're not only dealing with drier air, but you're dealing with colder air. So that's a cold front doing its thing. Temperatures start off near 60 at midnight. We fall into the 50s by 6 a.m., and we continue to dip as we head through the day. So this is going to be contrary to what most days are like, where we warm up a little bit heading into the afternoon and then we cool down. Nope, it's just going to be a straight cooling trend through the bulk of the day, hanging out in the 40s for the bulk of the afternoon, and those feels-like temperatures or those wind chills will be in the 30s for most of your Wednesdays. So that's why the first alert weather day will continue, not necessarily because there's going to be more rain. The rain's going to be gone early in the morning. It's going to be because of the drop in temperatures. And admittedly, the mid-40s, it's a little chilly, it's cold, but after having several days in the 60s, it is going to be a different feel. And that's our whole goal with our First Alert brand, is to let you guys know whenever there are shifts in the weather that could be impactful to you. So the rain impacted you the last couple of days, and then on tomorrow, we're dealing with the cold and the wind. That also means that if you have dinner plans tomorrow night, wind down Wednesday plans, you need to not be drinking anything white. You should be drinking a nice red, because if you're drinking something white, then your glass is going to be cold and your fingers are going to get cold. See? Nice glass of Sangiovese will keep your body nice and warm. That's going to be the wind down recommendation for tomorrow. Stepping out for dinner, you also want that thick coat. We're in the upper 30s by 9 o'clock, mostly clear skies. Temperatures are going to be falling to near freezing as we kickstart your Thursday morning. Most areas will be near or below freezing as folks are making their way to the car. So while you've needed the umbrella the last couple of days, we're switching to jackets and we're switching to remote start, right? So 32 degrees here in Atlanta, 7 a.m. We get into the mid-40s around lunchtime, and most of us will slide into the 50s for a couple of hours. So while that's going to be a chilly day, it's going to be not as cold as tomorrow, plus the wind won't be as big of a factor, so it'll feel a little bit better, a little bit of improvement. Heading out into the streets Thursday night, temperatures fall back into the mid to upper 30s. It's going to be a chilly overnight. We get back into the mid-50s on Friday, but we keep things nice and dry to round out the work week. And then as we head into the weekend, we start to build more clouds back into the region, and we're also going to introduce some lower end rain chances. Right now, it does appear the best chance for rain this weekend will be Sunday. Doesn't look like it's going to be a washout, but confidence is increasing that we'll see some showers around, and then temperatures will return to the 60s early next week. Alrighty, everybody knows that I always say that I'm going to keep you for a good time, not a long time. We'll give you this 7-day forecast full screen, and then, of course, we'll be diving into some of this new data on this rain and when it exits tonight at 10 on Peachtree TV and 11 on Atlanta News First. Also, we have our full anchor team hard at work Going through the news of the day, we have our digital team. They're about to send a push alert to your phone to tell you whatever the breaking news is that they're studying over there, because one of them is on the phone, the other one is typing very, very fast. So they're working to find out that information. And then our producers are also lining up what you need to know tonight as far as what has all happened today. It's been a lot of developments. Obviously, there's a story with the CEO shooting in New York. There's been some developments today. Obviously, we had some young ladies that disappeared this morning, I believe, in Alabama. Don't quote me, because, I hear bits and phrases, but I believe they disappeared this morning, and they were reunited with their family at some point today after their vehicle was found in some point of the metro. So they're going to run down what we've learned about that since that has been uncovered, and I'm going to just stick to the weather because that's what I do. Y'all have a fantastic evening, and I'll see y'all in about an hour and a half.